Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. I am Sean Anderson, Most Valuable Podcast, and the upcoming segment is from our full Fast Break podcast that we recorded. And if you do want to check out that full podcast, head over to Blog Talk Radio/The Fast Break. You'll be able to find the full podcast over there. But let's move on to our final topic, and it's pretty much going to evolve into Lonzo Ball versus Markelle Fultz 2.0. And the question that we were going to base this around was, can a great NCAA tournament run propel Lonzo Ball above Markelle Fultz? So pretty much it's right now, Fultz, I think in everyone's mind, at least in our minds, or my mind at least, Fultz is number one, Ball is number two. But do you think Lonzo Ball can propel himself to the number one pick and the number one spot after a good NCAA tournament run?
It's a tricky situation because it comes down to, you always hear people say, well, you know what, don't fall in love with that one like there's always that one player, and people use Buddy Hield as the example last year for March Madness, where you fall in love with people in March Madness, especially the ones that go on the tournament run. And the one thing I will say, it kind of does hurt Markelle Fultz a little bit that he's not in the tournament, because it's one of those things where a lot of people, and good thing that the general public isn't the one making the picks, is we kind of forget about Markelle Fultz, especially if you're a casual fan, because it's like, oh, we haven't seen you in nearly almost a month and a half of playing basketball. And the thing for this that I think that the tournament could do is it's one of those things where with Lonzo Ball, I don't think it's going to be his play that necessarily hurts or helps his draft stock. This entire March is going to be, how's he going to deal with his dad? And should I be worried about his dad coming into it? Because I think with the play, we know what we know. We know what we know about Fultz. We know what we know about
and what
Ball.
Do we know?
And it's one of those things
what do
where,
we know?
You know, Ball's the kind of guy where I can put him at the 1, at the 2. I'm putting Fultz mainly at the 1. And you got the Ball can leap and pass. You've got Fultz is the guy who's the smooth athlete, but it's one of those things where is he truly the number one? I think a tournament could help Ball, but it's not going to be anything like Tatum and Jackson where it's like, man, Lonzo Ball, if he wins the championship, he's going to be the number one pick over Fultz.
Well, I think the biggest thing, it's not Lonzo Ball's dad. I mean, get him out of here. That guy's just a joke. I think it's really the knee of Fultz, because it really hampered his playing time at Washington. He didn't play in that second UCLA game because he had the knee injury. He didn't play against Washington State because of his knee injury. The last 2 games against USC, he didn't play because of knee injuries. I mean, we didn't see that recently. I mean, really, it was until February 9th when we saw him sitting out games. And outside of that, he was playing around 30 minutes per game, 25 minutes per game. He was playing a lot of minutes.
Right.
Maybe the only thing that I would worry about Fultz is overusage, because Ball, while he is playing a lot of minutes, while he's putting a lot of time in, he's not a guy that's doing everything on the floor, because he does have a better team around. I mean, UCLA is a 3 seed in the NCAA tournament. They were usually top 5 team throughout the NCAA season, where Markelle Fultz and the Washington Huskies, they didn't even have 10 wins. So, Fultz was doing a lot and had to do a lot for his team to win. And one thing that might be worrisome is the workage and the usage of Fultz.
Right.
That really might wear down his knee, and that might be something that might hamper him. I don't think it's anything, season ending. Well, it's pretty much season ending for Fultz, but it wasn't anything that I don't think is going to require surgery. We don't know exactly, but there's something that, maybe his testing on his knee during combine stuff might hamper him. Dave, do you take any of the injury stuff into factors here? Because I think from play-wise and athleticism-wise, we take Fultz over Ball, but Ball has shown that he's a leader, and if he can be out on the floor more consistently, that might propel him. Do you think you take the injury stuff into
I think even
account?
With the injury in account, and I think you have to. It's a concern because it's an ongoing issue that kind of hampers him. I think it is mostly, like you said, nailed it, a playtime issue. He has to go all out, or his team stands no chance to win. And that's a lot to put on a guy who is 19 years old and whose body is still growing. So I think that that's something that, while it is a red flag, I'm seeing it as not a huge knock, because it's not something that is going to take him out for a large period of time. It's not, like you said, like an ACL, MCL, or an Achilles, anything like super serious. It's
that we know of.
As far as we know, it's a small nagging injury that keeps coming up. Honestly, I'm not super concerned. I still think Fultz, while he hasn't played recently, is still my number one guy. I think Ball would have to do something absolutely incredible during this tournament in order to overcome him, because, look, Markelle Fultz is like the prototypical point guard of today's NBA. I don't know what else you want more from him. There's nothing else he could do. I don't even think like they could have qualified for the tournament. Someone like you drop him on another team, wouldn't play a game, and I'd be like, he's still my number one. Like, there's nothing more that Markelle Fultz could do.
Well, the one thing, Lonzo isn't going to be a guy like Steph Curry or guys that we've brought up before that take over a tournament game, at least from a point standpoint. I mean, he's not going to be a guy that's going to put up 30 points, but he at least can lead his team. So possibly if he hits a big shot, that might be something that, propel. I mean, obviously that Kentucky game's something, that possible Kentucky matchup, something that's sticking out, that rematch that can take place in the Sweet 16. Again, a big matchup against UNC can be big. Ricky, I mean, obviously the injuries have been brought up. Tournament play. Is there any other things? Do you think workouts and interviews before the draft might come up into action?
Really, what's going to be the main barometer for this is going to be the combine and then the workouts and the interviews. But when it comes to, for me, the tournament, because the big thing that everyone's talking about, and I'm staring it right in the face here on Markelle Fultz's ESPN bio page, is there's a video and it says, did Fultz make the wrong decision to play at Washington? And they're talking about, well, did he make the wrong decision because he's not playing in the NCAA tournament?
Yeah, we saw the number one pick last year, and Ben Simmons go number one.
Yeah,
he didn't play in the NCAA tournament.
It's not one of those things that is necessarily one of those things where it's like, you're not in the tournament, you're not the number one pick. But to me, I feel like, unless I'm wrong, like Ben Ingram, we were talking about Ben Ingram and Ben Simmons, but did we really believe...
Who's Ben Ingram?
Brandon Ingram. Did we really believe that Brandon Ingram was going to overtake Ben Simmons for that number one spot?
No, but I think the closeness between Ball and Fultz is completely different.
The positions is what makes it. They are one of those guys who they can both play the point. They can both, although
Simmons and Ingrams are both threes, and I mean Simmons could be a 3 over 4.
But really, when you're Ben Simmons and you're getting comparisons to LeBron James, book it, you're number one. That's what's going to be in everyone's minds. We haven't had
Brandon Ingram was getting comparisons to KD.
We haven't had that. Yeah, who would you take, LeBron or KD? Come on, let's be serious.
Okay, well, it's different. I mean, Ben Simmons isn't LeBron.
None of these players are getting those comparisons, and for me, the big thing is, it's one of those things, if Ball can show me, not, like you said, not from a point standoff, but if he can have a phenomenal game where he scores points, he rebounds, he assists consistently, the big thing is, and I'll throw it out there, what if he does help this team get to a championship? Do you look at it and go, well, I know Markelle Fultz was injured, but he couldn't even drag his team to the tournament. Lonzo Ball, with his loaded team, was able to get to the championship and win.
Well, there's something with when you bring up Washington, and Washington does not have any player on that team that is an NBA pro at all. In any sense of the fact, there's maybe
they had a craptastic head coach. Well, great recruiter, craptastic head coach.
They also had a terrible team around him. He could recruit big players like DeJounte Murray and Marquise Chris, and obviously you got the number one player. Well, they got the number one player as well in the upcoming draft in Porter. And then obviously Fultz too.
Who is decommitted from Washington.
Well, with Fultz too, but I mean, it's something that the team around Washington was just, the team around Fultz was terrible. I mean, there's something where you look at Markelle Fultz, and I mean, later on we'll go into specific things of where Fultz is better than Ball and stuff like that, but I look at Markelle Fultz, and I don't think the college decision hurts him too much. I mean, he went to Washington, they sucked. He did everything in his damn power to win games for Washington. I mean, he pretty much was hurting himself with his knee injury to go out there every single night playing 35 minutes per game, shooting 47% from the field, 41% from three, and he's doing this while jacking up 5 threes a night and 17 field goals a night too. He's doing this in the Pac-12 that had put out Oregon, UCLA, Arizona, a lot of top teams, USC as well. Yeah. I mean, he was going up against good competition and putting up great numbers. I mean, 5.9 assists, 1.6 steals, 23.2 points, and he was getting those assists. I mean, could you imagine what his assist numbers would be on a great team like that?
If you had teammates who could shoot?
Yeah,
I mean, imagine that.
It's unreal what Fultz could have done at a different school, but I think we're going to see what he can do in the combine. I think teams are going to take the combine more into a factor, but I think it's the real thing of, I don't see a true cut pro comparison for Fultz.
I do. He's a better version of Dame. If you look at Dame's senior year from Weber State, it is better, just a hair better across the board. That's all it is. He's a better version of Damian Lillard, who is now going to be, much younger.
That's a big comparison, Dave.
Look at the stats.
Well,
But you also got to look at the play style. Stats is different.
Let me put it this way: do you think Markelle Fultz is going to be like Dame and be like, fuck it, knock down shot from three, going to win it? I would pick Ball to be that player.
I think he's somewhere
Fultz.
in the same range as a Kyrie Irving, a Damian Lillard. He is going to be in that upper echelon of point guards. I really do believe that. As long as that knee injury doesn't turn into something more, that's really the only concern. That's what you want to see out of the combine, out of the testing.
And we might go into team specifics by saying this, but then let's just go to the pro comparisons over the players because we'll get to the players just a little bit later. I think the biggest, the ceiling for Lonzo Ball that's everyone's throwing out is Jason Kidd, and then obviously you're bringing up Kyrie, you're bringing up Damian Lillard. Who would you rather have? I mean, a guy that can be like a Jason Kidd, or would you rather have a player who could be like a Kyrie Irving or a Damian Lillard?
I personally would rather have Dame or Kyrie on my team. I know Jason Kidd is a phenomenal player, and you're rolling your eyes.
Phenomenal player. He's a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
He's going to be a Hall of Famer.
I don't disagree with you. Awful coach.
I'm not talking about his coaching. I'm talking about his play.
I know. It's just as I'm thinking Jason Kidd, I'm like, what else? No, I agree. And I think that, look, I just, something about watching them play side by side, I would much prefer to have a Markelle Fultz on a team than a Lonzo Ball. I think play style wise, I lean more towards Fultz. And I think contribution to the team wise, Ball, yes, he may end up with more assists at the end of his career.
But I think
he
also
may be a better tool player.
He's a better leader. I mean, at least you see him, controlling tempo. You see him controlling games.
You can't compare because you said the level of competition on your own team is so poor for Markelle Fultz. What are you gonna? I mean, it'd be like him coming here and be like, yeah, let me lead around a bunch of guys who couldn't cut it.
No, I understand what you were saying there, but there's something where Fultz. I mean, obviously, you're saying that he hasn't been able to do that because of his team, the team around him. But with Ball,
you can't rally the troops if you got nobody around you.
But with Ball, you see the players that he was playing with, and really, it's only T.J. Leaf, I think, is the other player. I mean, you look at that starting five. I think 3 of the 5 were there last year, and UCLA was a team that didn't make the tournament. You add Leaf, who obviously is an athletic freak and is going to be a first-round pick in the NBA draft,
and Lonzo.
I said
I'm not including Lonzo Ball helping Lonzo Ball.
Lonzo makes Lonzo better.
What are we talking LeVar Ball here? Lonzo Ball makes Lonzo Ball a better player than Lonzo Ball.
Well, I'm saying overall team because he's a freshman.
But he took a team that wasn't even in the tournament all the way into a 3 seed, and it's something that Lonzo Ball, he's able to control the pace of the game and control it at desperate times. We see that Oregon game at UCLA where he's able to take that game, slow it down, and win that game for UCLA. I mean, they were down big, and then Lonzo Ball really rallied the troops, slowed down the game to play UCLA basketball, and they went on that run to win the game.
And that's the thing I like. The thing I love about, I'll give you one thing I like about both players is Lonzo Ball. I absolutely love his poise on the court, and it's one of those things where he's very poised. If it's a big moment, I like ice in the veins kind of a player where it's like if I'm feeling last second shot, I don't have to worry. Lonzo's got it, and he's going to hit the shot. And also, he's a very unselfish player. That's what I want from a guy who is going to be in my backcourt, especially if that player is not going to put up 20 points a night. I want to see at least 7 assists from you consistently, whereas Fultz is that guy where he's the athlete. He's the guy. I want you putting up points, big guy. I want you being the workhorse that we lean on. Now, the big thing that I don't like about each of them is Lonzo Ball. It's one of those things where I feel like he's going to have to bulk up a little bit. When he gets to the NBA, he's going to have to add some strength. For Fultz, it's one of those things where if he's on a team like Cleveland, let's be honest, he ain't going to be on Cleveland, but I'm throwing it out there, where it's like steal, fast break, LeBron, boom, boom, we're going in transition, he'll be fine. But if it's a team where, okay, we got to run the half court, he's not really quick and not really as strong to me in the half court than it is on transition.
No, but the thing is with that is people bring that up. It's just the fact that he's a guy that is kind of when I look at him play, it's more of people knock Le'Veon Bell's, or at least in college, they knocked his running ability where he's very patient. I think it's just more Fultz is too patient, and I don't think it's anything about his speed. I think his speed is fine. He's athletic. You see his speed when he's attacking the basket. I don't think it's anything with that. Yeah. It's more of that he slows down the game, and people see that as a negative because he's able to at least be too patient. I think it's more of people not thinking that he's quick enough. I think it's just more of people seeing that he's slow acting, or it's the way he plays, and it's just I think that's what people see as not being quick enough. Of course he's quick enough. Look at his speed just in full court. There's nothing going to change there. He's still quick attacking the basket.
Which is why when it comes down to 1-2, and this has kind of been the story of the podcast so far, it's all going to come down to fit. If the Boston Celtics are picking at number 1, I'll take Fultz, mainly because of, like I mentioned before, the one thing that they've been doing that's great with Isaiah Thomas is a shorter guard. So what Brad Stevens is doing is saying, hey, we're going to have Al Horford come out. You got to respect Al Horford on the outside. You can't just leave him out there. That opens up the paint. They put the ball in a screening hand. They have Isaiah Thomas run around the back, come out, get the ball through a screen, and then he's got a choice. I can pop up a wide open 3, or I can drive into the lane. They could do the same thing with Fultz. The only thing is, Fultz is way bigger than IT. So it's one of those things where we don't have to do it to create you some separation. We can get you a full head of steam behind you, give you the handoff, let you go into the lane. We've got those plays already developed for IT. We could just sub you right in.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that kills with IT and that
he's so quick.
Is just so quick.
Yeah.
I mean, there's not a player, maybe De'Aaron Fox, if anything, is as quick as Isaiah Thomas in this draft. But the thing that I want to bring up, and we'll go into kind of baseball terms here, is everyone talks about being a 5-tool player, and in baseball you bring a 5-tool player. So we're gonna play some games here. If we're looking at the 5 tools, and I put these 5 tools in, and they're not the perfect 5 tools. Yeah. This isn't baseball.
It's on the fly.
We're bringing something over. The 5 tools that we have are passing, scoring, defense, athleticism, and leadership. All right. So we're gonna say Fultz or Ball. I'll throw out the category, and you bring it up. So we'll go to scoring first. Fultz versus Ball. I think it's pretty clear, but Ricky, Fultz or Ball in schools?
Fultz.
Yeah, all right. That one's pretty clear. I mean, obviously, you look at the shooting ability. Lonzo's got that awkward shot. I mean, people say, well, if it goes in at a high percentage, it goes in. But when he's shooting the way he is, I mean, defensive guards, NBA guards will be able to stop that and will be able to slow that down. So I think scoring is pretty easy, especially with his ability to shoot at a high percentage and his ability to drive in and score. Obviously, Lonzo's great in pick and roll sets, and he's super athletic where he can be quick in the half court. But scoring I think is easy. Passing abilities, Fultz or Ball?
I'm going to go with Ball on the passing ability. It's just the things that he can do with the ball, with passing. He's elite at passing. I would go and say Ball.
I have to agree with you. I think that Ball has a knack for it. His court vision is really good. He can predict where his players are going to be. So really good on the lead passes, and I'll give him that. Yeah,
I completely agree. I mean, that's the biggest thing that people like about Lonzo Ball is that he's just so versatile, and he can lead an offense. And to lead an offense, you need to be a great passer. And not saying Fultz can't be a great passer, but you see the playmaking abilities of Lonzo Ball, and I think that's something that really sticks out. And there's a reason why he is so number 2. I mean, he's an unselfish player. He's not a guy that's going to take the limelight, unlike his father. But going to defensive side. Do you like Fultz's ability because he is a quicker guard, but Lonzo is a lankier guard, and that might play better in the NBA?
I'm going with Ball only because he can defend. With him having out there, I feel like he can guard either the 1 or the 2. And that is crucial. If I can say, hey, you know what, I can put you on either of the backcourt players, I like that overall.
I'm going with Fultz on this one. I think that just because Lonzo has a 2-inch height advantage, but he's not as built, so you've got a thinner, lankier guy out there.
You can always hit the gym.
I know you can always hit the gym, but at the same time, I don't see him looking super comfortably on defense all the time. I think Fultz is a take on whatever comes at you kind of guy. I don't really have to question him on defense, taking any I don't want to say like free rides, but basically those half-assed attempts sometimes where it's like, oh yeah, I'm playing defense. Oh no, you got past me.
I don't see that. Either of those guys are like that.
You don't see it a ton, but I think I see Fultz more comfortable on defense. I see him better off the pick and roll on defense. I think that he sticks guys a little bit better than Ball does.
There's something where it's come out where Fultz has been a guy that has given up on defense, and you haven't really seen that with Lonzo Ball. I mean, Fultz has been a guy that, I mean, he's playing on a bad team, and he's
hard to stay motivated when you're just getting your ass kicked.
And there's signs even in that UCLA game where they played against each other, where Lonzo was just able to beat him on pick and rolls, and Lonzo was just able to beat him because Fultz kind of gave up, and once he was by him, he was like, oh well, he was pretty much playing James Harden defense. I think Fultz's athleticism can help him become a great defender. I think he can be a great defender. I think he's got good vision. I think he's got a high IQ. I think he can be able to be a guy that gets a lot of steals, and he can be a guy that really can be a good on-ball defender. But right now, coming out of college, I'll take Lonzo Ball just because, again, he's showing it in college. Not saying that Fultz can't be a great defender, but looking at what Lonzo Ball has done defensively.
Looking at it right now.
I'll take Lonzo Ball.
The weird thing is that even though Ball's taller, Fultz has more blocks.
Yeah, but also, I mean, you got to think, I would say, and we're getting
Ball
into this.
has a complete team.
We're getting into this where, athleticism plays into it, and I think that's the biggest thing that Fultz has. I'll take Fultz when we go to the athleticism. That's the next tool. I'll take Fultz at least athletically. I know Lonzo Ball is explosive going to the lane, and he's obviously thrown down some ridiculous dunks. But I see Fultz as the quicker player, as the guy with an unreal jumping ability. He's a guy that is just so quick going to the basket, and there's some shades of I don't want to say Russell Westbrook, but there's some things where maybe not athletically he's going to be on par with Russell Westbrook, but you see some ability to get up like Russell Westbrook. So I'll give the athleticism side to Fultz. It might help him become a better defender, but right now I'll take athleticism Fultz.
I almost wanted to be kind of dick and just say, oh, it's a push.
Well, you are a dick.
It's one of those things where the athleticism part, if we're talking like leaping ability and especially with the jumper, I'm going with Ball. But if I had to pick one, because I'm not going to say, oh, I'm giving it the push, I'll give it to Fultz. I mean, it's one thing where Ball hasn't had to be that athlete out there where you look at, and Dave, when he compared him to Dame, Fultz has had to go out there, and when you're putting the team on your back, you better be an athlete, especially when you're driving in.
Then again, that might go to the whole aspect of better team. I mean, TJ Leaf looks like a great athlete out there on UCLA, where Ball really hasn't had to play that factor where Fultz has to pretty much do everything. Where are you giving to athletically?
I'm sticking with Fultz on athleticism. Like you said, his lateral quickness is really good. His ability to stop on a dime when need be. I mean, just his ability to make cuts for himself. I love watching him play. Again, Ball is not too far behind, but Fultz is more of the raw athletic, like, this is what I want out of a point guard to me. Physically athletic for his size. Ball is pretty good, though. Still at 6'6". I do have concerns about the larger point guards, but I think he has enough athleticism to make that size work for him.
And then now what's going on? So we agree athletically. Jesus, that's a terrible word. Athletically, Fultz wins here. But then let's go to leadership. I think the thing that a clear cut to me is clear for these players. But I'll give it to you, Ricky, first. Who's better as a leader? Because leadership is a big thing in the NBA.
I'm going Lonzo Ball. I love the poise that he has on the I love the poise he has on the court. The big thing, like you used it before, Sean, is he's such an unselfish player to where. Also, I'm going to bring in the fact of I will bring on what his dad is saying. And usually it's one of those things where normal athletes, it's like it might be easy to get surrounded in that. But even with all the kookiness that his dad's doing on the outside, Lonzo just seems to be so even keel and so just like, whatever about it. To me, where I just look at it and I go, that's the guy I'm going to give the leadership category to.
That's fair. I have to go with Lonzo Ball by default here because you can't lead a bunch of rocks.
Well, you could lead a bunch of
rocks.
No,
you can't.
You can.
No.
I mean, LeBron
the Rocks can't go marching
LeBron
one by
didn't
one.
do it. You watched in the NBA for his first 6 years in Cleveland.
He got to the finals in the Eastern Conference.
I would say
finals once.
I would say he still had a box of rocks in that finals.
You're calling Zunis Ilgauskas a box of rocks?
Yes.
How dare you? I'll give it to Ball as well. But the biggest thing, we're looking at this, so Ball got the passing, Fultz got the scoring, Ball got defensive, athleticism, Fultz got it, and leadership, Ball got it. So looking at it, Ball won 3-2.
Yeah, I had 3-2 Ball too.
So, I mean, looking at this.
And I disagreed, but yeah.
Yeah, well, there's one where we put Ball defensively, and you took Fultz. But at least 3-2. Ball gets it. So what makes Fultz the better prospect? Because you had him.
It's a prototypical point guard for today's NBA. Who's the best point guard in the league right now?
Russell Westbrook. James Harden, one of them.
Yeah, between Russ, Wes, and.
You could throw Steph out there, but.
Yeah.
I would put.
What's your point?
What are they doing? What do they do that Lonzo Ball can't do? It's score and volume. You need to be a volume scorer as a point guard. Chris
Paul's also a top three point guard.
Who can't score in volume?
Wait.
But he's still the top 3 point guard.
Guys, Chris Paul is not a guy that's going to go out and score. The one thing with Lonzo...
Really? Because he dropped like 30 last week.
But let's be honest. When we're talking prototypical point guard Chris Paul, we're looking at the assist numbers. We're not looking at him to go out and have that scoring. The thing with Lonzo... He has, and it goes back to the complete team of he hasn't had to score.
So,
we don't know
so what
if
he ends up on a team like Orlando? Do you think that he's going to be successful in Orlando? Because I have my concerns about that.
And that's the
no matter where I put Markelle Fultz, I think he'll be a successful NBA player. And I think Lonzo Ball is team dependent.
And here's the thing I'm going to throw out about Markelle Fultz is I feel like with him right now, you can compare him to Dame. You can compare him to Russell Westbrook.
I'm not.
You can even compare him to James Harden, like you said, on defense. You know what all three of those guys have in common? Not going to win a championship on their own. And the one thing I realized with Lonzo Ball
is I was gonna say,
Lonzo Ball's not going to win a championship on his own, but he's so unselfish. He's so team player. With these two players, it comes all down to fit. If Fultz wants to be successful, go to Boston.
Where isn't Fultz successful is my question.
If Ball wants to be successful, go to LA. Those are the best two fits for both.
Well, then let's get into this because Fitz, obviously you're bringing it up. I mean, if you want a leader and you're the Celtics who are already a top 3, top 4 team in the East, wouldn't you want a guy that is shown as a leader, or would you want the guy that's going to be a possible star? I mean, that's the biggest thing for a playoff team. You want a leader, so why wouldn't you go with Ball? Why is Fultz the better pick for Boston? Because
it's one of those things to me where I look at the team right now, and the big question mark for Boston is Isaiah Thomas. Is he going? We've talked about it in the past. Is he going to stay? Is he going to go?
That's the long-term answer.
Are they going to cash out and give him the money eventually to keep him in town? And for me, I look at that and I go, you know what we talked about, what I mentioned earlier, how Brad Stevens can of course, he might have to doctor a few things because the speed of IT is nowhere near the speed of Markelle Fultz. I think they could fit Fultz in there and be like, we can run similar kind of off-ball movement to get you kind of going in the offensive formula in the half court, something that you've been weak in.
So he fits the system better.
He fits that system where Lonzo Ball, to me, if he went to Boston, I don't think he'd have any problem performing in Boston. It's just I look at LA and I look at that team, that team is looking for a leader, and more importantly, Brandon Ingram is looking for a Robin. And I feel like eventually that team can grow into Brandon Ingram and Lonzo Ball leading the top, and then they just fill up the team as it goes on.
I find it interesting that you think Brandon Ingram's the Batman there.
Same here.
But do you agree with Ricky that Fultz...
It doesn't mean anything.
Do you agree that
Batman's older than Robin.
Do you agree that Fultz is a better fit for Boston, even though we said that, obviously leadership means so much in playoffs?
I almost am in complete disagreement. I think, honestly, though, it's one of those things where it's like they have a stable core of veterans to come in and be 20 years old and try to be the leader in the locker room. Fat fucking chance. That's one of the things that you have to earn it in the NBA. And I know we talk about leadership in college. It's all good and fun when you're all within 3 years. But in the NBA, when you've got hardened veterans who have been doing it this way, and that's the thing, and this is who's in the locker room as a stable presence, to come and take over a team, you really have to do something. And I'm not saying you can't do it. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it takes a lot to do that.
But one thing with Ball, at least, one thing with Boston, they don't have a guy that's, an outspoken leader. They don't have any, dynamic personalities. Well, I'm saying taking out IT. If one of these guys is replacing IT, you don't see a guy.
Well, even year one, you can't. He'll be there. So,
but I'm saying at least a dynamic presence. If IT's at least able to, if IT's off the team, someone's going to step up.
I feel like Crowder and Bradley kind of are, but we'll see.
But you never see them. I at least personally watching Boston, I don't see them being.
The thing is, they're really well controlled organizations. So you don't see that. It's kind of like the Patriots in the NFL. No one speaks out,
and that's something with Brad Stevens where
credit too.
He's a great head coach. I think I agree with Ricky, at least in the system, it fits Markelle Fultz better, and that's the reason why I have him going number one. If he wasn't, a better fit.
I'm sorry, I thought
Boston,
you said Ball. Yeah, no, for same reasons though. It's you don't need a leader. You need someone who can score, and that's why I have Fultz going.
Yeah, I think that's the thing is he fits the system better for Boston. Even though at least player wise, we talk so much about leadership. We talk so much about leading your team to a championship. Lonzo Ball has the ability to do that, but again, in the system, I think Fultz might succeed more, and that might be the thing where Ball might win more championships than Fultz, and that might be something that people might look at and say, well, hey, I would rather take this player and build around Lonzo Ball than, bring in Fultz, plug him into a system, and hope he works. So,
well, that's my question for you guys: is where do you see Fultz less successful than Ball? And like I don't see a team in this draft where Ball will, I see teams where Ball isn't a great fit. I don't know that I see that for Fultz. I don't know that I see a top 5 team,
but I think it's
or a team with a very good chance of getting him.
It's more, I think, of what do you want out of this player that you're drafting. I think, again, I agree with you that Fultz is more of a player that can fit in.
He's a plug and play.
Yeah, he can fit in anywhere. I don't think there's a team that really can really slow him down. Maybe if anything, and not even that team. I was gonna say like the Rockets, but even then, he's a good 3-point shooter.
Say, yeah.
And he could become a decent defender, maybe kind of take over that Pat Bev situation, but even be a better
long
scorer.
Way to go, but yeah.
And yeah, definitely not defensively, but again, just in that mindset of that size. I would say I agree with you, at least plug and play, but then again, Lonzo Ball, he might have that X factor, that thing of great champions. And we talk about the unmeasurables of heart and how much you want it. Lonzo Ball might be that guy that wants that, and maybe how much we give slack to his dad. And I hate that we've talked about his dad so much.
Well,
I mean, his dad's building
a story with it,
and his dad's building a brand. I mean, his whole thing about his dad is that he's trying to be a business guy, where Lonzo might take that leadership and take that kind of build it on your own attitude that his dad does have, and take that into the NBA. I think that's something that it might have unmeasurables on Lonzo Ball. I think the better pro, at least skill-wise, will be Fultz, but who might have the better career might be Ball, just because of these unmeasurables that Ball might have.
I can buy that, and the reason why is when LeVar Ball was on SportsCenter with Carrie Champion, she kind of asked him, like, well, how was it raising 3 boys? Like, how did you even know you were going to have 3 boys? And, of course, Lamar Ball, kind of being a dick, was like, I told my wife we were going to have 3 sons, and that's what happened. But then he went into it and was like, you know what? Me and my wife we are going to be this example for our kids, and this is what you want to take. So maybe that is the case where it's like, hey, I'm trying to build this brand, be the businessman. Lonzo can look up to that. The thing that I look at between the two is for Markelle Fultz to be successful in the NBA. I'm not saying he doesn't have it in there. I'm just saying I see it more with Lonzo than I do with Fultz. Is Dave's compared him to Dame. We've put him on the same team as IT. We've thrown out Russell Westbrook. What's all 3 of those players have in common? When the game's on the line, I'm not just taking over the game, but they have that hungriness, that attitude of where it's a constant just fighting and not struggling, but that fight, that want, that like, I'm taking this game over and I'm number one. That's what I need to see from Fultz for him to be very successful and not just be, hey, he's a good NBA pro.
I think the one thing that Fultz has had is that he's been defaulted to be the number one. So it's really in the NBA with so many NBA great talent players. Can you step up and say, I am the number one, where you're saying Lonzo Ball has done that at UCLA with great players around him?
The ITs, the Dames, the Westbrooks, they have it. They have that second gear that they can go to and say, fuck it, putting the team on my back.
I mean, even Kyrie hitting the shot in Game 7. I mean, even though you have the greatest player in NBA history, or one of them, in LeBron James, he still stepped up and hit that shot.
And the thing with Lonzo I wanted to throw out is, of course, we hear LeVar Ball, whenever he brings up the Steph Curry, like, my son could take Steph Curry one-on-one.
Got that dad love.
I hate it, but it's one of those things where the one kind of similarity between Lonzo and a guy like Steph Curry, I look at the unselfishness and I go, hey, Steph Curry's an unselfish player. If he's having a bad shooting night and Clay's just lighting it up, here you go, Clay.
Yeah,
here you go. Light it up, baby.
But then again, when they're both off, and they can't create anything else.
But I'm just saying, like, as a teammate and as a player on the court.
Clay's a great shooter, so it's really, is Steph creating opportunities for him, or is Clay just a great shooter? I mean, that's one thing where Lonzo Ball might make his players around him better. I think that's the biggest thing that people bring up.
That's what I'm wondering is, if his usage goes up, if he gets pushed into a role where he needs to score a little more for his team, if he goes to a bad team like an Orlando, where he has to be the guy who's scoring.
I mean, LA is going to be a bad team if he goes to LA right away.
Right, but they may have guys who are...
I know what you're saying. No, I know what you're
They
saying.
have a direction, too.
Yeah.
And they have scores. If they keep
Yeah, that's what I
Russell
was
and
saying,
Ingram
like,
around, they have scores.
They've got guys who can score, and that's the thing is, like, I don't know, and I'm not saying he can't. I want to see what he can do if he's put in that spot where it's like, dude, you got to carry this team scoring-wise. I know you want to facilitate, but it's like kind of like Rondo shooting himself in the foot when he's like, I could take this open shot, but I'm going to dribble in and just dump it out because I want assists. And I'm like, that's more selfish assist player, but like, I'd like to see that dynamic and see how it play out.
Yeah, and the final thing that I want to say, and we'll wrap this up, is there's 3 questions I have. A, who is the safer pick out of these two, Ball or Fultz?
The safer pick? I'd say I'd go Ball. With me, I'm going Ball. I'd feel more confident taking Ball than Fultz.
I think if combine time happens and the knee is good, I think I'm taking Fultz, safer pick.
Who is the more sexier pick? Who is the guy that is going to be who has the higher ceiling? Really? I'm sorry. Let's
Say sexier is different because LeVar Ball is making that pick sexy.
No. When you say sexier
way.
pick, though, if it's LA, Lonzo all day.
Let me phrase it this way. Who do you think will have a better career, at least point-wise and championship-wise? Who do you think will have a better career in kind of that way? Or who do you think could be more of
Lonzo.
a dynamic player?
Lonzo.
I think it's going to be Fultz. I think that Lonzo may be a better team player, but I think Fultz is going to take it over.
Final question. Who is the pick? If you're number one, who is the pick?
Lonzo.
No question, it's Fultz.
So you started as saying Fultz, and now have you talked yourself out of it?
Well, with Fultz, it's one of those things where if Boston, and I'm not in the war room, if Boston's making the pick, go ahead and take him. But if I am taking him and I am running the team, me personally, I'm taking Lonzo Ball every time.
Anyways, I'm picking. It's so surprising because you started off saying Fultz, didn't you?
Well, it's one of those things where it's a fit thing, and I'm not in the room.
No, I'm just saying it's interesting how close it is. Where this conversation took you from Fultz to Ball. I'm not saying it's a bad thing.
What really sold it was the 5-tool player thing, and for me, Lonzo 3, Fultz 2.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to see what happened. Tell us what you think will happen down below. Obviously, the camera died on us because we were having such a great conversation.
So you're not seeing anything.
Yeah, but obviously, we had a fun conversation here. Tell us who you think is a better pro player, who will have a better career. All the questions that we asked. They're 5-tool players. Lonzo Ball versus Markelle Fultz. It's going to be an interesting discussion. We'll probably have a 3.0 just because of these two players and how close they are. I think it's just interesting, though, that, again, people talk so much about the kind of things that are hidden and the things that people do not take in, the intangibles. I think Lonzo Ball dominates those, but again, the scoring and the ability to get to the rack and be a guy that can be a star, I think Fultz dominates it, but again, can that win you championships?
And I don't know about you guys. I just say we talk draft all the way until the playoffs start.
No. Anyways, don't forget to tell us what you think down in the comments below. Ball versus Fultz, Fox versus Monk, Jason Tatum being a top 3 player, all that good stuff. But also, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. We are putting out daily content. It's absolutely awesome. Don't forget to like this video as well. Also, if you download us on Blog Talk Radio, thank you so much. We appreciate that. YouTube, Stitcher, Blog Talk Radio, all of you people listening, we appreciate it so much. But for Dave Oster, Ricky Widmer, I'm Sean Anderson. We'll see you next time. Thank you. Oh, shit. It's just one of our videos scared me a little bit. Don't forget to check out that one. And also don't forget to check out patreon.com/mostvaluablepodcast. But thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time.